You've heard us talk about it a lot over the past couple of weeks. It's going to be an extremely busy offseason for Winnipeg Jets GM Kevin Cheveldayoff. Here are all the Jets free agents. Sam Gagner recently said some really nice things about playing in Winnipeg. And, of course, the big focus on RFA Pierre-Luc Dubois. In all, Winnipeg 6 UFAs, 5 RFAs. For a deeper dive, I am now joined by the impeccably dressed Winnipeg Bureau Chief, our good friend, Mr. John Lu. Great to see you, sir. Fantastic to talk to you. It's been too long. So we just heard in Insider Trading, John, the guys talking about the Pierre-Luc Dubois situation. Pierre LeBrun is reporting that Dubois is leaning toward wanting to go to Los Angeles. However, your former colleague in Montreal, Arpon Basu, suggesting, and Darren Dreger suggesting this as well, John, that the Habs are still in this thing. What are you hearing?
Well, what I was hearing earlier Monday, Jay, corroborates what Pierre LeBrun had reported, and that is that LA was the front runner. And if LA emerges as the successful team, then you can expect a large haul coming back Winnipeg's way. There's multiple assets in exchange for Pierre-Luc Dubois. But if word of that is leaking out, then Montreal Canadiens reportedly getting back into the picture. That's not really surprising because we know that there's been dialogue between the two teams going back to last year's draft. And so a lot in the Montreal market thought, well, you know, why go for Pierre-Luc Dubois right now when if you wait 1 year, he becomes he would potentially become an unrestricted free agent in the summer of 2024. Well, the fact of the matter is any foundation of a deal potentially with the LA Kings is going to Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to, in all likelihood, sign an extension, a mid to longer term extension with the Kings. And so he is not going to be available next summer. So that means that the Canadiens are serious about having any shot at acquiring Pierre-Luc Dubois before his next contract, which should be a big one. Well, they're going to have to move now. And so by the Canadiens getting back in the picture, that just ups the ante, potentially creating a little bit of a bidding war between at least two teams, the Kings and the Canadiens, and that bodes very well for the Jets. And it's really interesting, Jay, because in situations like this over the past few years, when Kevin Cheveldayoff has basically had his hand forced, he's managed to come out smelling like a rose. It's been just over 4 years since Jacob Trouba wanted out of Winnipeg, and Kevin Cheveldayoff was able to make a trade with the New York Rangers and get a very serviceable defenseman in Neil Pionk in return, and a first-round draft choice that became Ville Heinola, who's knocking on the door, just waiting for his opportunity to become a full-time NHLer. And then in January 2022, of course, or 2021, excuse me, that was the infamous Patrick Laine situation, and the Jets sending Laine and Jack Roslovic to the Columbus Blue Jackets for Pierre-Luc Dubois, and a third-round draft choice that became a very good prospect, Danny Zilkin, who just signed his entry-level deal last December, and he projects to be a top-9 centerman, a good two-way centerman, good face-off guy, tremendous skater. So, again, Kevin Cheveldayoff was able to turn a situation that looked kind of foreboding for the Jets into something that would really benefit the club. And now Pierre-Luc Dubois is on his way out of the club. It's only a matter of days, perhaps even hours. We might wake up to the news that he has been dealt. But in this case here, if Dubois goes to the Kings, the names that have surfaced over the weekend, Jay, include a top 6 centerman. We're talking about Gabe Vilardi, and I don't have exact confirmation on that, but his name has been in the mix. And if he is is the centerpiece to that deal, then the Jets will come out basically breaking even, because they're going to lose Dubois, who essentially can be, or has at various times over the past season with the Jets, been a number 1 center. So he's a 1A, 1B, depending on your situation. But to get a young centerman, good offensive prospect like Gabe Vilardi, that would be a real win for the Jets, in addition to additional assets that would be coming their way. So really, it's this could be another instance where Kevin Cheveldayoff has really come ahead when he and the Jets have been backed into a corner.
Now, as far as Blake Wheeler is concerned, 13 seasons with the franchise, former captain, lives in the city, 36 years old. It looks like his time is about to come to an end. And Pierre LeBrun reported last week, John, that, he wanted to make it very clear this is both sides trying to work to a solution here. This is the Wheeler camp. This is Cheveldayoff of the Jets trying to find a suitable solution. But if they can't find a trade partner within the next few days or perhaps around the draft, do you feel like a buyout is probably the likely option?
Oh, absolutely, Jay. Yeah, those are the two options, really. The Jets would prefer to broker a deal for Blake Wheeler, as they did last summer and were unable to do so. The tricky part is that he carries an 8.25 AAV, even with just 1 year left on his contract, and at age 36, with his performance declining somewhat, that's a tough one to move. And so, if the Jets are able to pull off a trade, in all likelihood, they're going to have to retain salary. Now, failing that, if they aren't able to get a deal done, well, then the buyout route is going to be the next option. And the thing is that Wheeler has a modified no trade, no movement clause. So any sort of deal, whether it was a trade or a potential buyout, was going to require his approval. And the word is that he has accepted all options, that he is prepared to move on. And so the first buyout window deadline is 5 Eastern on Friday, June 30th. So basically, we're talking just a number of days before Blake Wheeler's tenure as a Winnipeg Jet is very likely to end. And this is a complicated one, Jay, because as you mentioned, he was a captain for 6 seasons. He was the heart and soul of this team, a high-level producer, a very gritty performer, somebody who did not take nights off, and 6 seasons as their captain. But as we all saw last summer, the Jets were unable to trade him. And then at training camp, they removed the C from his uniform. And so there have been certain things happening that have basically been pointing toward a premature parting of ways between the club and player. And so, like I said, that's very likely before Canada Day, something is going to happen with respect to Blake Wheeler.
And then Connor Hellebuyck, we know he's not interested in signing long-term. Cheveldayoff likely will try to move him in the next couple of weeks. But there's lots of talk that his potential contract demands down the road are maybe scaring off some teams. Do you get the feeling, John, that at this point, Cheveldayoff might be best or might be forced to just wait until the March the 1st trade deadline this coming season before he can move Hellebuyck to someone who potentially might really want him for a Stanley Cup run?
Yeah, Jay. And when you talk about a Stanley Cup run, that really that affects the timing here, because the thing is that you alluded to Connor Hellebuyck's contract demands. Well, he's going to be seeking something in the neighborhood of Andrei Vasilevsky money, or your one of your favorites, Sergei Bobrovsky's his AAV, or Carey Price for that matter. And so that's going to scare teams off for certain. Even though Hellebuyck, a Vezina Trophy winner, a finalist again this season, one of the last true workhorses in the league who can take on 60-plus starts per year and still play at a very high level. So, I mean, there's a lot of pedigree there that would attract certain teams. But the fact of the matter is would those teams be able to fit him under their cap umbrella? And so the alternative would be is that if you have a contender who feels that they're close, that a number one goalie of Hellebuyck's caliber is the missing piece for them to make a strong run or to bring in a cup, well, then you could be looking at a 1-year rental situation. And that's where the time sensitivity of this would make the Jets want to get a deal done sooner rather than later. Because if you're talking about waiting until the trade deadline, well, what if the Jets are in a position where they are competitive, where
Sure.
they are making a strong push for a playoffs? Well, why would you deal your number one goalie? And in all likelihood, Hellebuyck is going to be their MVP once again. And so really, there's no pressure to trade Hellebuyck right now. And word is that the trade front with respect to Hellebuyck is quiet at the moment. But that doesn't mean to say that something might happen on draft night. But the fact of the matter is that there are a couple of scenarios, depending on the potential trade partners, that would really determine whether Hellebuyck goes sooner rather than later, Jay.
John, I'm glad you're dressed so fantastically, because you're going to be working hard this week. This team is going to be busy. This guy's going to be busy. John Lu, always a pleasure to chat with you, and we will talk to you very soon. Have a great summer, my friend.
Thank you, Jay. Always a pleasure.
And our coverage of Free Agent Frenzy begins Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. Our insiders will be at the NHL Draft. You just saw them trying to do their insider trading report outside of a bar. It was loud. They powered through. They'll deliver the latest trade talk and signing updates on Free Agent Frenzy.